Okay, recording started.
All right. The continuation. Let's go ahead and get into the first question. So, first question. What bad experience made you want to leave Los Angeles? I think I know this story, but I think it's important to tell.
Okay, is this the, I feel like I covered that one before.
No,
Or
I
you,
asked you, but we didn't because the kids started crying.
okay. Well, I didn't have a bad experience that made me leave Los Angeles. I got a new job.
Oh,
I I wanted to leave Los Angeles. Let me back
okay.
up and say that I wanted to leave Los Angeles after a certain number of years because the crime rate was going up, and I refused to put bars on my windows like some people were doing. I don't believe in living in fear like that.
Yeah, that's
And
madness.
no, so I decided that it was time for me to relocate, but I didn't want to just up and move because at the time I was between jobs. I was I had a tutoring program for years. I closed that program like at the end of 86, something like that. And I wanted to move, but I needed a new job. So I thought I better find the job first and then move to where the job is. Because I went from owning my own business to now wanting to go back to work on, for somebody else, let them worry about the overhead. So I started applying for work that year. And when I got the offered the job at Fullerton College,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I decided after the first year, as soon as I started teaching at Fullerton, I started looking for, well, not as soon as, but shortly after, I started looking for a place to move to because driving from LA to Fullerton was about 30, 35 miles, something like that. And I didn't want to do that long commute. So that's what made me move to Orange County, was to get closer to a new job I had. So I found a house that was about 9 miles from my job instead of 35 miles from my job. And it was a good deal, and I decided to take it. And I liked the fact that my kids were going to get to go to the local schools because in Los Angeles,
Have
as the years
better,
went by, huh?
yeah, they have better educational opportunities as well.
Well, not just so much educational opportunities, but I was concerned that the school right near my house up in LA when Tammy was in elementary school, they were not as assertive as I would like. And when I sent my kids to public school, they already could read and write, and because I put them in preschool when they're 2.5. So by the time they go to first grade, they're already reading. And they kept placing her in classes that were a couple of grades above her grade because she was able to do the work in the.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I wanted to have, matter of fact, most of the time in the early days, I was putting my kids, I was very selective about where I put them in school. And so I was very willing to drive to private schools and here and there. But when I moved to Orange County, it was the first time that I was satisfied enough with the local public schools that Adrian and Herbert could actually walk to school, to their local school. So, but that wasn't my first reason for moving. I moved because to get closer to my job.
Oh, okay. So that was like the main reason. The reason why I asked that too is a lot of people have experienced been victimized by some type of crime in LA, and usually
Mm-hmm.
when you reach a certain level of success, they oftentimes want to remove themselves from the situation just because like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, the whole crime rate. So I was
Mm-hmm.
asking like, has anything like that ever happened to you, like to where you've been victimized by a
Yes.
criminal or something?
Yes, I did. I trying to think. One time somebody broke in my house just as I left for work. That's when I was expecting Adrian, and I was going to drive my long drive to North. I was teaching in Northridge that year, and I decided I didn't feel good. So I turned around and came back home, and somebody had broken in the house, but there wasn't, they didn't really take anything because there wasn't anything that valuable to take. But that was one incident. And then another incident, I did get carjacked
Mm.
on Western in front of my tutoring program, which was up on Western and 60 something. Anyway, as I was pulling up one evening, I came by to check on the building. I owned a building there, and a couple of kids jumped out of the car. The guy that told me to get out of my car that had a gun on me, I looked at him and I thought, I know this kid. I think he's a former student of mine. And at first I wanted to say, didn't you go to? And then I thought, oh, wait, he's robbing and carjacking me. He's not going to want to have a conversation.
No.
So I just did. I just did. And I also could tell he was very afraid. So I figured that he was either being, indoctrinated into a gang or something, because he was scared himself. And I didn't want to do anything to make him, suddenly shoot me or anything. Yeah. So when he said, get out of the car, I almost reached to get my purse, which is a normal thing. And then I thought, no, he's going to want the purse. So I'll leave it there. And I just got out, and he jumped in and took off. And his friends who had dropped him off, they took off behind him. And luckily, I was able to get into the building and call the police. But I didn't have a whole lot of bad experiences, but things were getting more
and worse and worse. I think
worse
that's
for me.
important to tell as far as
That's
the
well,
LA
it's
story, especially if that's a chapter in life, because that is
a
like,
chapter. Well, you know what worried me more than that carjacking was that I had to hire, because when I was in that commercial building, I had 8 employees, and one of them had to be a security guard.
mm,
And when you hire a security guard, you have to pay much higher fees than when you hire a teacher to the government. And but it was necessary because I had night classes and parents were coming and dropping their kids off. And in spite of that, somebody did snatch one of my parents' purses off when she was dropping her child off, when she was getting out of her car, even though there was, security out there. So things like that. I was more concerned about things possibly happening to my students or my parents in my tutoring program than to me. But and I've forgotten a couple of times my battery kept getting stolen, because I would be there during the day. The students didn't come until the evening, after school and evening. So I would be there in the daytime pretty much by myself, doing paperwork and this and that. And I would park right there in the little parking lot right by my building. It was right on the front side of the street. And I'm sure at least 2 brand new batteries got stolen, because they steal one and then you go buy a new one and they go, woo, she bought a new one. So
like
I thought,
crack epidemic to me.
Yeah, well, it's disgusting because it's so sad when you think about that level of crime is so petty. Mm-hmm. That it's not like you're robbing Fort Knox and now you'll have enough money to live for a year or whatever. It's petty crime, and that people are desperate to see that as a way to survive, and it's a day-to-day survival. It's not even a plan. It's not even a strategy. So I was happy to leave that, but I was sad to leave the area I was in, or the program, because it had taken me a couple of years to build that program to where it was. And it was in a perfect location. The building was beautiful. The people that had owned it before was a chiropractor, and his wife was a designer,
Mm-hmm.
and they had done a beautiful job of that building. And it takes time to build up your reputation. And now I was getting people from all over the city. I got interviewed by one of the news channels,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I got put, was on the news, and I got an article was written, a couple of articles were written about me and my program. So it's sad when you take time to build up something like that, and then you got to be worried about your safety.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That
Yeah,
would
and
definitely
my
be
and my
terrible.
client's safety. That was not fun.
That's for sure. All right, let's get right into the next one. Um, oops. What made you want to start a gift basket company?
That's a good question. Um, I when I moved to Orange County for my new job, and I was teaching, and my kids were going to school. Everything was going great. I always like having something that uses my right brain and my left brain. Left brain is my teaching and my intellectual side, but I also like having some kind of side, either hobby or side hustle.
Oh, okay.
And but it has to be something I enjoy. And I wanted it to be something where I would be making money, but I wouldn't be counting on that money for, my livelihood, because I had my
Mhm.
main job. But I did want it to be enjoyable and fun. And I actually researched, I always end up doing this. It's just a pattern in my life. I end up kind of researching what kind of things would I enjoy doing. And when I stumbled upon, I think I was reading an article about in some magazine about gift baskets were the up and coming thing. This was back in 86, 87, 88, somewhere along in there. Then I thought, oh, that's something I think I would enjoy doing. And not just for now, for that time, but I thought that I would start it as my eventual retirement business.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I thought I'll start it now while I'm teaching full time. And the thing about teaching college, you have more flexibility than you do if you're teaching the lower grades. So I thought, I'll start it, I can pace it and, do it in my speed. And by the time I retire, it'll be up and running full speed ahead, and I could just step right out of teaching into a business that will be something that's making money, it'll be fun, and it'll be it'll be running. As it turns out, it didn't turn out that way exactly. For one thing, when I get into anything, I can't seem to help getting from here I was trying to do something that's creative, to use the right brain, but I always put together the right and the left brain. So after I got into the gift basket business and started going to gift shows and meeting other people, some of the ladies we'd hang out after a meeting and talk about the business. And somebody said we should form a group. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. That's always the pattern that people, want to start an association or a group, and I'm a leader. So I said, okay, I'm willing to start. I'm willing to be the start of this. But if you ladies, because by then I was older and wiser than when I was younger. And I said, we can start this. However, I'm not interested in being the one that's going to host all the meetings, because you got to figure out where you're going to meet. And so if you're willing to start it, we can host the first meeting at my house. And after that, we'll take turns. There are about 8 of us. And you want to meet monthly, you want to meet. And I was letting them decide. It was so funny because they were like, oh, no, we could meet like just once every couple of months. And I said, okay, fine. And it was funny, after that first meeting, people were calling me the next month and they said, when is our next meeting? And I said, remember, you guys said you wanted to meet
Yeah.
in 3 months? Number one. Number two, I asked who wants to host the next one. And nobody's said anything. I said, so I guess we won't be having a group because somebody has to host it and you know have to be involved in the planning. Well, as it turns out, they finally realized that if they didn't step up and be interested in making this work, it wasn't going to work. But I was proud of myself because in the past I would have been trying to make it all
You
work
ready?
on
You
myself.
very ready.
And I said, no, I'm not doing that. But as it turns out that, yeah, I still was teaching full time and, you know, raising the kids. And that became an association. We really became well known across the country because we'd go to different the gift shows, and the vendors would get to know us, and it became very. And then, of course, the next thing that happened is people asked me to speak at the gift show. So I was speaking at the LA Convention Center and LA Gift Mart about gift baskets,
It's
and then
amazing.
I was writing articles, and you know, it's just it just goes in. It goes into
Mm,
the. It blended into you know, an academic type of
mm,
thing. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I was sort of sad to have to tell by the time I decided I was, instead of it lasting to my retirement, by the time I was getting ready to retire from teaching, I was also ready to retire from gift
that's good.
baskets
That's
because
good.
it's a very labor intensive business.
Especially if they got you leading and being in charge, and that's an extra burden on top of
Yeah,
that.
and that's a side thing. That wasn't my business. That was an associate. Everybody in that association had a business,
Mm,
but our association lasted, I think, for about 9 years, and it was really a wonderful experience because when you're in any kind of business, it's important to know other people in the business that can share ideas and you can meet frequently. We ended up meeting once a month. We ended up meeting at a wonderful location at Cal State Fullerton. They have student union with all kinds of meeting rooms. Anyway, it turned out to be a really great association. But eventually, I stepped down as a leader of it because they wanted me to be the president for life. And I was like, no, okay, now we're going to have somebody else be in charge. And it's a lot of work to be in charge of something in addition to your own thing you're doing. But
exactly.
it was a great experience and I don't regret any of it. But I did retire from that just about the time I was retiring from teaching.
From professing. What did that group that you were in, was that something that helped you like land that deal with Kaiser Permanente where you were making gift baskets for the gift shop?
Not really, not directly, let me put it that way. When I was in the association, one of the things we did was try to understand the whole industry.
Hmm.
And one of the things we did a lot of was learn how to market your business to different places and to corporate clients. And we would have guest speakers at our meetings. So we learned a lot about how to go out and market. And so indirectly, yes, because when we met, that was the whole purpose of our association meeting was learning to be more professional.
Mm.
And but as far as getting a contract with Kaiser and other places, you know, you have to do that. Your individual business you have to do that.
How do you do that? Through email, through calls, through I heard
Um,
email blasts. How would a young entrepreneur trying to do that for themselves?
okay, these days is very different because if you can imagine back at the beginning of the 2000s, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, none of those existed.
Right.
Okay, email was around, but a lot of people weren't even using email that much. But typically, you would contact, let's say, you would contact the office that handles gift giving. Well, let me tell you, one of the best clients I had was the people in the real estate industry.
Mm.
You have to think about if you're selling gifts, who needs gifts on a regular basis? And people who are realtors, especially if they're selling big ticket homes, they typically give a new homeowner the keys to the house, a bottle of wine, and a gift basket or something of that nature.
Exactly.
So you, as a business person, you start learning who those people are in your area. And and you get acquainted with them, you introduce yourself, you can get on the phone and start calling them and introduce yourself, or you can see if you can get on their agenda to attend one of their meetings, because all associations have meetings. And so
Information.
I would go to like a realtor's meeting once a week or whatever frequency. I would go to their meetings and I would introduce myself, bring some samples of my baskets, and show them, and tell them how my business worked in terms of how you place an order, what the procedure is, and so forth. And then from there, realtors are individual salespeople, so they would decide if they wanted to use me or not as individuals. And the same with Kaiser. Um, I don't remember exactly how I got connected with Kaiser. It may have been through somebody I knew who knew somebody, but Kaiser is a huge corporation. It's a big place, so there's no one place that would use baskets. The place that I ended up working with was I think it was the Kaiser in Irvine. And what they wanted to do, this was a department that wanted to be able to give a gift basket to patients who had to be there, for an extended period of time to, lift their spirits and make them feel good. And they didn't want any food in the basket. They wanted something that tied in with some theme they had going on that year. Like I can remember the basket I found was shaped like a star because their little logo, their little slogan had something to do with letters of the word star. So when you are in this business, you coordinate with the person or the company you're going to deal with, and you make a basket that's custom for them. I had custom ribbon made, and all of the stuff you learn by associating, having an association, going to conferences, learning these things. And you sometimes win a contract that can be an ongoing contract. And I did baskets for the Marriott hotels. But whenever you hear somebody say that, that doesn't mean they're doing basket for all the Marriotts.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get
You're
that.
dealing with maybe one manager at one particular Marriott wants you to do something for them. And if they like it and they tell other people, you may get a, contract other places. So it's not like a huge contract where every single Marriott or every single Kaiser was involved.
But yeah, that's still important. Um, Also, I wanted to ask, how many books have you written?
I've written, I think 14.
14 books. That's a lot.
I think so. Though that's not that
Is that
many compared
including
to
your
some people.
dissertation?
No.
So then
You don't
15
count your
probably.
dissertation as
So
a
then
book.
let's add another one, 15 probably.
No, most people probably don't count their dissertation as a book
I'm
unless,
counting mine. I did the work.
well, if they do, it's probably because they actually took their book and published it on for the general public, or published it to be a textbook. Mine, I did not. It gets published in the sense that if you wanted a copy of my dissertation to read, you could order it, but you'd have to order it from a university library, and they would send it to you, and you'd have to return it, that kind of thing. Because so it's not like it's on Amazon or anything.
That could be like the Dead Sea Scrolls or something, the one that hasn't been canonized or something like that.
Yeah, there may be. There are people whose dissertations do become books for what they call for the trade, that are sold to the general public, but
No.
mine wasn't one of them.
All right. So, how was public speaking, and how did that help you with your business and your being a professor?
Okay, public speaking helps you with anything that you plan to do where you're going to be dealing with the public. If you think about let's think about the pandemic, for example. And during the pandemic, people wanted to hear from researchers and experts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the researcher might be a scientist working in a lab who never ever has to talk to the public before the pandemic. Okay, they work, they're working in the lab, they're doing work with a small team of people, and they may not have to really engage with the public as part of their job. But suddenly during the pandemic, now people are seeking their advice, seeking their knowledge, and now they have to step up to, at least to some extent, they need to work on their public speaking.
Yeah.
And so public speaking can be a part, even if you didn't plan for it to be a part of your career, it can become a part. And it's important because people want to know, like if you want to buy something from me, I need to be able to explain to you what it is, how it's going to help you, how your life is not going to go as well as it could if you didn't have whatever I'm trying to sell you. And I have to be ready to answer your questions, your objections. So public speaking is an important part of almost any career, but of course, teaching is public.
That
I
is
mean, you're
public.
doing public speaking,
Is that how
and
you won so many awards doing public speaking?
I didn't win that many awards during public speaking, only a few,
Well, yes, a few or something.
just a few.
I don't think I have any actually.
Well, I'm trying to think the any awards I won for public speaking was just a few awards along the way, but I wasn't really going after public speaking as a career. Like a lot of people speak for, have you heard of TEDx, which,
TEDx.
well, the TED.com is a group that speaks, has speakers speak at big conferences, and then they made smaller ones for local events, and they called it TEDx, where people speak on all kinds of topics. And really, look it up. Really good topics. You name it, they speak on all kind of topics. But to be a TEDx speaker, their speeches have to be about 18 to 20, no longer than 20 minutes. I think about 18 minutes. So you have to really tighten what you're saying and what you're offering into that time frame. So people who want to really be out there on the speaking circuit or get paid to speak, like every convention has keynote speakers and they have speakers in breakout rooms. If you want to get paid to speak, then you really do need to work on how to begin, how to get the middle, and how to wrap up what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you're speaking to sell something, then you're always selling something in a sense because you're selling yourself. But you do need to work on those skills. But as far as teaching, we did have to learn classroom management, but it wasn't public speaking in the traditional sense. But a lot of what I do now, I learned from belonging to a lot of associations. Like there's over 6,000, well, actually it's many more than that, on Facebook, for example, groups. So almost anything you want to do on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and these other social media sites these days, you can join a group and build your skills. And that's just the online stuff. I haven't named the in-person things that you could do. And so people who want to be good at something like public speaking, they get into an association, they take classes, they take training, they hire a coach. You do all those things to build your skills if that's something that you really want to do.
All right. So, was there ever a time in your career and running a business and all the above where you wanted to give up? And if so, what did you do to motivate yourself to push you through and continue on?
There were times when I did get discouraged, not so much give up, but think that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this way, or I'll give you an example. When I started my tutoring program, I wanted to do it a certain way in my head, but I didn't have the space and the room to do it. And so what I typically do in those situations is I look at my phone book and my contact list and think about everybody I know who could possibly offer me some tips on how to do this, so people I've known from in school and church and wherever, I think of people that maybe have some ideas, and then I contact them either by phone nowadays, email, and tell them what I have in mind and ask them their opinion and their suggestion on ways I can do it. And then I start acting on what they said. Or sometimes what happens is there'll be something I wanted to do. And when I start researching all of the things that would be involved to do it, I decide maybe I don't want to do that after all, because I'm not willing to do what I need to do. So it's very important to find out what you want to do. And if you don't start contacting people and learning about what it is, then you just have this imaginary thing in your head.
That's what I
And
call an over dreamer. I call those
yeah,
dreamers.
I
You
don't
don't
know.
even know if
Yeah,
you want to do it because you haven't started.
yeah. Well, and it's very important to have a big dream. So I'm not knocking that. You've got to have a big dream, but you also got to be willing to do what it takes to. When your big dream opportunity comes along, like when I wanted to get a doctorate, and my oldest two kids were very, very young, and I couldn't afford to pay the tuition at USC, nor did I want to try to teach during the day and go to school at night. I wanted to be able to go to school full time, but I really wanted that degree, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And that's when your positive mindset and your
That's
belief
good.
in God comes through, because when you want something badly enough that all you can think about is that thing, it's like a little kid that wants a bicycle for Christmas. If you have a little kid who's 5, 6 years old and they want their first bike, they really don't care how much the bike costs. That's not their problem. They're not worried about how much does it cost. All they care about is, I really want this bike, and all they can think about is staring in that window. If there's a display, is staring in that window and thinking about, when they get a bike, what color do they want? What size do they want? What are they just visualize all the things they want about it. They don't worry about how it's going to happen. And that's what we have to do. I wanted that doctorate. I didn't know how I was going to get it. And I was led to see an announcement about grant one night when I was leaving a school. I was teaching a part-time course,
Hmm.
and I saw this announcement about grants for doctorates, and I thought, oh, wow. And when I applied, when I saw it, the deadline had passed for applying. And this is what is very important for people to realize. Even though the deadline had passed, I wrote down that number and I called them, this group, the next day.
Yeah.
And this was a special grant coming out of one of the universities down south, Emory University. And I called and said, I just saw this announcement about a grant that I would like to apply for, but the deadline is passed. Is there any way that I can still apply for it? And she said, no, not for that deadline. But here's what you can do is, we will put your name on the list for next year, and we will send you the information when it's offered again. And if you still are interested, then you can apply. Now, some people would, think that was failure,
Yeah.
but it wasn't failure, because even if they had said, okay, great, you can still apply, I really wasn't ready to go into the doctorate program at that point. My kids were 5 and 2. And I was teaching full time. I needed to figure out, how was I going to do this? You got to make plans. And I also had to talk it over with my husband, because that grant said that they would pay all my tuition and everything, but I'd have to quit my full-time job and
Mm.
go to school full time. So I needed to be sure he was okay with that. Going from 2 salaries down to one means major sacrifice. And so even if I had gotten it when I wanted it, I wouldn't have been ready to take it. So as it turns out, I needed that time, for the next year. And by the time it came around again, I applied, and now I had thought through all of the different things that I would do. My husband was okay with me going to school full time. And I didn't even know how long it was going to take. That's what's interesting. People would ask me, how long is it going to take you to finish your doctorate? I said, I don't know and I don't care. I
Mhm.
want it, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to stay there at USC until I finish it. And so there are a lot of people who don't have the understanding of how you manifest things in your life by wanting something so badly that you are ready to do what it takes to get it. And or you find out, like I said, sometimes you find out all the things you need to do, and you say, I don't really want to do that badly. So it really is about figuring out what you want to do or what you want to have, how you want to feel, visualizing the outcome, and then let the universe and God take care of how it's going to happen.
That's the power of the subconscious mind. You kind of just got to keep reminding yourself that that's what you want to do and expel negative thoughts.
That's
I used
right.
to be like a pessimistic type person, but I read this book called The Power of Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Yes, uh-huh. That's a
He was just
famous
talking
book.
about like if you're thinking about negativity on a regular basis, we're more reactionary than we think. You
Hmm.
know, you are subconsciously causing drama and chaos in your life just based on you're thinking about something bad. Now you have a bad attitude. Now you get into it with this person. Now you're in a fight with this person. Now you getting kicked out your house. Now you're homeless. It's just like a trickle effect, and
Yeah,
have a control over the thoughts that we think, and that's literally all we have control over. Because, like you said,
that's
a
all
lot
you
of
have
things you
control over.
plan. You plan it one way in your head. You say, "I have this plan," and God says, "Oh, I got a different plan than that."
That got a different plan. And you know what? People don't realize and it's a never ending thing you have to work on. Because even though I have been very blessed and I have manifested some great things in my life, but at this point now, the next great thing I want, I still have to work on my manifestation skills
Mhm.
because you get out of practice or we're humans and we slip back into something
We just
that
want to
doesn't
chill.
work.
That's what I think it
Yeah,
is.
you just want to chill.
You have
And
to auto program yourself. Like, no,
you
I have
do. And
to
you also have to realize that the subconscious is, I heard somebody say the other day, the subconscious does not have a sense of humor.
Nope.
The subconscious just does what you say.
That's it.
And so you keep putting something in there and you may be joking around and thinking that's funny, but the subconscious is said, oh, that's what you want.
That's what you want me
Okay.
to do.
Yes, what you want me to do? Okay. And next thing you know, you're having an accident or
Mm.
something has happened to you that you don't want to happen because you focused on that and the subconscious just brings it. And when it happens, the thing that you want, matter of fact, I listen to a lot of programs about the conscious, subconscious, and the mind. And someone said, if you want to find out what you have manifested and how you manifested, look around you.
Yeah.
Whatever, look at your house, look where you live, look what kind of things you have in your house. You manifested that. You brought that into your life. You don't like it, what you see, now you got to manifest something else, something different. And you cannot be sure of how those things are going to come. I think that's our biggest problem as humans. I know it's my biggest problem is if I want to do something, my first thought goes to how am I going to do that? I want to
How
go
am I
to
gonna pay
Europe. I can
for
remember, yeah, how am I going to pay for it? Where am I going to get the money? That's not the first thing we need to think about.
it?
The first
Exactly.
thing is, wow, I want to go to Europe. I want to go so badly that that's all I can think about. And boy, when I get there, I'm going to go to Paris. I'm going to go to London. And you start visualizing. You can start looking it up in terms of dreaming about it. But at that point, you don't really need to know how it's going to happen
Hmm.
because the subconscious is very good at serving you up what you want. But unfortunately, we we were brought up in many cases, probably most cases, to think that we have to figure out the what. I listened to a lot of speakers, and they said all you need to do is figure out the what and the why, but not the how.
Yeah,
You know,
the how
what
is
do you want and why do you want it? What do you plan to do with it? In other words, if I want to be wealthy, why do I want to be wealthy? What am I going to do with that money?
mhm.
And you start visualizing all the wonderful things you could do with the money other than just, buy some fur coats and diamonds or something for yourself. Maybe you have a big plan that while you want to be help a foundation and set up a program for countries that don't even have safe water to drink. You want to be wealthy so you can do that. And so you start visualizing the things that the reason you want whatever you want, and you'll get closer to it because whatever it is you want, it already exists.
It
That's what
already
someone told me once. It's like
fact.
it already exists. So you aren't asking the universe to create something, to create a house. Houses already exist. You just have to think about that one you want that'll make you happy. And if you can hold that positive thought for a sustained period of time and not put any deadlines on the universe about I want
Mhm.
it tomorrow, you might get it tomorrow. But at the first thing you have to do is be clear on what you want. And I've been very successful at doing that a number of times. And like I say, want something new, got to work on it again.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, I was looking at this other PhD guy. I forgot his name. Tyson something. He's an astrophysicist.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know you're talking about.
And he was talking about how he's explaining on a scientific level where how we're made up of certain atoms. The main ones are like nitrogen, carbon, and things like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
he said, in the outer space in the infinite universe, that space is also made up of the same exact nitrogen and carbon. It's like I've seen stuff they say you share DNA with a banana, and then a lot of times we get so confused and figuring out everyone. He's saying everyone thinks they're special, and it was like, that's maybe not what is special about us as being different. What's special about us is that we are connected to this whole big universe, and the capabilities of that universe is
Yeah,
infinite. And once you
that's right.
tap into that,
That's right.
that's why they have planes flying in the air right now.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is that unfortunately, so many things like planes, for example, people will use that as an example about the Wright brothers get, credit for the plane being able to stay up in the air. But other people had that idea before the Wright brothers, but some of them gave up on it because they couldn't figure out how it could happen because nobody had done it before. And when you decide that you're going to create something that's going to happen, you don't know how, but you're going to keep working at it, at least a positive thought that will lead you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, then you'll be the one that gets the credit for it, even though many people
They
may
had
have
the
thought of
idea.
it. They had the idea, they just didn't follow it through.
Yeah, that's the main thing. That's the main thing, especially for me and other entrepreneurs. Like you have to stay on and then even sometimes you think like I don't want to do it. Stay on the grind. It'll lead you to what
It'll
you
lead you.
everything is or it's just all tied. Like you said, you doing the gift baskets, you end up doing seminars and writing and everything that your academics and stuff, it just all blends
It all blended in
together.
together. Yeah, and the other thing about being an entrepreneur is, unfortunately, a lot of people think about the making money and getting rich. And I think that being an entrepreneur, your first goal is what service do you have to offer that will help people in some way, shape, or form? No matter what business it is, you're in the business of helping people get something that they want. And it's like Zig Ziglar. If you haven't heard of him, you definitely need to look him up. He
Yes.
said that you can be successful in this world if you help enough other people get what they want in this
Uh,
world. So
that's
when you are a helper, when you are serving, so whatever you're doing, if you're doing it that will help other people, then you are already moving towards success. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Almost every entrepreneur you can think of that has created something that, whether it's a service or a product, that will help other people do better at their jobs, live longer, whatever it is, it's helping other people. And that's our first goal as an entrepreneur, not just to do something to make money.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think of it as if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be, full time, and that's what I think it should be. You're looking for some type of freedom. You don't have to be on the clock. You don't have. That's why I think people should. I think that will motivate, because it can get real discouraging when you're not making money or not making
Of
the
course, of
cash
course,
flow
of
immediately.
course, of course.
You have to be find some type of satisfaction. I don't have to clock in. You have to figure out some type of satisfaction to get you to the next step.
Yeah. But you still have to be willing to do like what it takes to do it, because unfortunately, we look at people many times who are successful, but we're looking at them after they have been through all the things that it
Exactly.
took for them to get there. We're just looking at the end result. I was watching Cardi B they were showing behind the scenes of her rehearsing and preparing a down in Los Angeles. She was
Hmm.
her whole team of dancers, choreographers, makeup, are all of the people involved with her business. It's a lot of work. People see the final performance and they have no idea that she rehearses at 4 in the morning. She was
Yeah.
complaining about how she hates to have to start rehearsals that early in the morning. But um, people don't realize there's a lot behind what you see, but she's willing to do that for the end result she wants. So there's no quick overnight kind of thing. You got to really, 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 really want that end result and then be willing to do whatever it takes to get it.
Yeah. The only way that quick thing's gonna happen is if you win the lottery and stuff.
Well, and then even that doesn't work for long. You know why? Because people who get what's that saying? Easy come, easy go.
Yep. They always
People
go
who
from.
if they haven't learned to manage money in the first place, then getting money suddenly like that doesn't help them, because they end up making some very unwise choices within their back. Not only back to where they were, they might be lower than what they were because they gave all. Some people give their money away to their friends and loved ones,
Yeah.
and they just. So there's a lot more to it, and that's why focusing on the money only is not the key. Because if you don't, it's like somebody who's made a lot of money and lost it all, and then started over, made some more money, lost it, because they know how to now go about getting it because they did it before.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So just tapping on what you just said again, how important was like credit and credit cards and finding capital to push your business or your
Okay.
school or what
That
the.
is very important with business people. That's my weakest skill, because growing up, my mother had her own business all of my life, and she was very shrewd with her money management. And unfortunately, she thought that, and I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I think a lot of parents thought that if they were shrewd with their money, that you would just pick it up and know how to do it. So,
Mm,
she didn't, not that that would have worked necessarily. That's an excuse that, she didn't sit down and say, this is how you do this, this, and that. Um, I have had to learn over time, and I've made some mistakes with money because I was not um, savvy
hmm.
about money management, and a lot of things I didn't know and didn't realize that I needed to. Just like I wanted to become a teacher, I knew I had to go to school and take classes and go to training and so forth. Managing money, I didn't think like that when I was a young adult. That's something you could go and learn from coaches or programs, and I didn't do that. So I've had to learn the hard way, so to speak. fortunately, I've had people around me that I've observed, and little by little, I've learned from them, and I've learned to not take not take offense if I can't do something financially, and not to think it's the end of the world or that I'm the worst person in the world because of it. Try to learn how to manage money, and even things like I can remember when I learned about equity in the house I first owned in LA. I didn't even know what equity was exactly. I had all this equity in my house and I didn't even know it. A lot of things I didn't know because it's not something you're born knowing. You
They
need
sure
to
don't teach
learn
it in
from
school.
some, and they don't teach it in school. Many parents, now maybe, I don't know, maybe wealthy parents sit down and have
I think so.
sessions, maybe, but their kids don't always listen to them either.
Exactly.
If, it's unfortunately many people, if they don't have, if they're not the ones who work and save to get things, typically don't understand how it all works. And partly, I had that problem in the sense that when I was a kid, money was easy for me, not for my mother. she was not, she was frugal, but because she had all these customers in the beauty shop, I
Hmm.
always had money because the customers would send me on me and my sister send us on errands and give us tips, or they would if when you got your report card, the old timers would say, "How did you do with your report card?" And say, "Oh, I got, 3 A's and 2 B's," and they would how to incentivize you by saying, "I'll give you a quarter for every, you know, A you get on your next card, or $1, whatever." And so I was always um, getting money for achievement. And also, whenever I would talk about gift baskets, when I was a kid, when I would learn how to do anything at the YWCA church or whatever, I would make potholders, learn how to make potholders. I would go and buy materials and make some more and then sell them to my mother's customers. So I always had a little entrepreneurial business going, even when I was a kid. And the downside of that was I didn't have sense enough to save my money because I was going to have more next week, and it was like easy money. And that's one of the downsides of not learning managing money. Making money is a lot easier than managing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned your experience as a child and stuff like that, and how you find ways to make money around your mom. For you and your children, did you incorporate them in your business in any type of way?
Yes,
Put
but
them to work?
put them to work, although they weren't that thrilled about it. Yes, I incorporated them. Well, here's whatever was going on in my life, my I was a part of whatever they were doing, and they were part of what I was doing. So when, for example, when my oldest daughter started taking violin lessons, and then your mother, came along, I was learning about the whole violin business. I started writing articles about why you should offer your music to your kids. And then I would do little things to encourage them, like write lyrics to a Bach minuet to help them learn their music. So I'd get involved in their lives. And then when I had my business, yes, they were involved either like as a tutoring business, they had to be students because after school they had to be with me
Yeah.
anyway. But also with the gift basket business, they did get involved to some extent. They were older by then, but it's not always easy to get your kids involved in your business because they're not as enthusiastic about it as you are. So I would encourage them to get involved, and sometimes they would, and sometimes they would be reluctant, but I would try to get them into it, and not so much to teach them how to make money per se, but teach them how to work, how to offer a quality
Exactly.
service to people.
make
Yeah.
yourself valuable in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. I
Yeah.
remember we used to have to answer the phone, certain phone,
Right.
gift baskets by Flora and all that
That's
stuff.
right.
Like all you're gonna be able to accept a business opportunity. Take
Yeah,
a
and
message.
it's really tough for kids who are shy. I never was really super shy. I mean, some things I'm shy about, but for kids who are not that outgoing, it's really tough. And I can remember when I had the tutoring program, my oldest daughter would somebody would call and ask questions about the program, and I had written up a description for her to tell them, but she would put the phone down and come and get me and say, "Mommy, somebody has questions about the tutoring program." I said, "Okay." So answer their questions. No, I don't want to, So, so it's tough getting your kids involved. Some parents are very successful at it, but you got to respect the kids' personality and what they like. But to some extent, they need help. Like when I had that building that we owned, that last place where I had my tutoring program, it was a big building, and I couldn't afford to hire janitorial staff to clean that building. So guess what? I had my own janitorial staff. Even my husband said, when I told them on Saturdays, when we close on Saturdays, you and the kids come down here so we can clean up before I close up for the weekend. And one time he said, "Well, couldn't you just clean on Mondays before you open?" I said, "Excuse me? No, no, you and your children are coming down here." And they had to clean. We had 2 bathrooms and all these little classrooms, and with a vacuum, they had to help. So they weren't thrilled about that, but they always thrilled about the money that you spend on them.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
Christmas and all those fun things.
well, all the times in between Christmas. Christmas
Yeah,
is only one time a year. They have to eat before Christmas.
that's
So
true.
no, they weren't always thrilled about it, but it was part of what you have to do when you have a business.
Yeah, that's very important. So my big takeaways is money management, um, keep pushing, education. Am I missing anything? I know I'm missing some big key things.
Well, I would say the biggest thing to
Networking,
keep in mind is, yeah,
public speaking.
networking. Well, and learn whatever it is you are not skilled in, whatever you are missing in terms of your knowledge base. Get a coach, get into a class, get into a program,
Mentor.
learn or get to know other people who are skilled in that. That's very important because had I been thinking that way about money management when I first started, my very first, job, then if I had taken that, it's not that it didn't exist. It's just that I didn't do it. I didn't think about it.
Hmm.
And but if I had, then I would have gone a little different direction. Now, there's no guarantee, what's going to happen no matter what direction you go. But learning to realizing you need to learn the skills of all of these different areas if you want to excel at them. And money management, learning how to have good relationships with people, personal relationships and business relationships, learning how to make and manage your money are extremely important. And if you don't know how to do it, then you need to find out from somebody who does. And you have to learn how to trust. You have to learn who you can trust when you start dealing with those kinds of things because people are waiting to take advantage of you if they can.
Especially in
So,
business world.
yeah, so I think learning how to manage yourself and manage your money extremely important in this world.
All right, perfect. We ain't gonna keep you too much longer. Got Dr. Flora Brown running schools, running gift basket companies, running English departments at
Oh my goodness.
colleges.
Uh,
The
you
list
just gave
goes
me a
on.
bunch of promotions.
Award winner, book writer. The list goes on. But that's why it's important that we want to get you on video and just you telling your story. That's why I kind of asked a little bit of personal stuff because sometimes people can separate your accomplishments from what it took, like you said, to get there. We're just looking at the end
Right.
result.
They
So
look
that's
at the
why I
end
bring it.
result. Yeah. It was a
kids and all that,
sacrifice.
you know.
Yeah, it's a
But
sacrifice.
I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. We just wanted to get you on file, let the people know. I'm gonna show this to all my friends, and I hope you show this enough of you. And we just want to inspire people. I think you're someone that a lot of people look up to, and they just sometimes don't have access to people like you. And hopefully
That's true.
that this will be something that especially a lot of people I know who have a good head on their shoulders, just nothing around them is positive.
Yeah.
Look, you know, they're looking up to a rapper on TV or something instead of having someone like you that they can say, oh, they're doing it, or it makes more sense that, you know, to do that rather than to, you know. And a lot of times we're only given one option,
One
you know,
option. Yeah. Yeah.
or at
Like,
least we think we're given one
yeah,
option. And
right. Yeah, it's like somebody that's, a guy who's born and he's tall, and they automatically think he would be a great basketball player. Well, maybe he would, but maybe that's not his skill or that's what he's interested in. So, like you say, it's about options, learning what your options are and figuring it out and going for it.
boom. We're gonna end it. I thank you. I appreciate you for your time. And I think Anthony might want to do something with you too. But I'm gonna
That's
try to,
fine.
I'm gonna try to make sure he's a little bit more organized than me. If he does, that way you can get
Well,
through it.
I'll be happy to talk to you again.
All
Thank
right.
you, Victor, and thank you for being my grandson and bringing those little cute clones into the world that you just brought in.
I just cut his Hermes hair today.
Did you?
Cut
Oh
him
my
bald.
goodness.
Not bald, but cut him low.
Don't
He was
worry,
sweating
it'll
too
grow
much.
back. Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
it'll grow back.
And then
Well,
once they get a certain age, it starts to stink because they don't manage and take care of it. He's rubbing stuff in his hair and smell like spoiled milk or something. We
oh
gotta
yeah.
cut this. It smell like sweat and spoiled milk. So we have to
Yeah,
cut this
I
out.
remember that smell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if you wash it, you still wash it. You be like, your hair is like permanently smelling like that. So I
Yeah.
have to chop them off.
That's what fathers and parents do. All right. Thank you for inviting me. And anytime if you want me back, I'll be happy to share because right now my current interest is helping people write their life stories. We didn't even talk about that, my new venture.
Yeah,
And I
tell us
think
about
this is
that.
one,
Color your life
well,
happy.
the Color Your Life Happy is a book I wrote a number of years ago, but the life story workshops is something I just started and they're tied together in some respect. But when I wrote the book on happiness, I didn't even have in mind teaching people about writing their life stories. And the reason I got into that is I realized that there's so much I don't know about my parents because they didn't tell me. And then many times the old timers didn't want to reveal what they thought were, their private secret lives, or they were embarrassed or ashamed or whatever. And so consequently, we ended up not knowing a lot about our ancestors. And in our case, of course, we're children of people who were originally enslaved. And in some cases, we have to really cut them some slack because it was not safe for them to share
Yeah,
information about themselves. There was a lot of secrecy that had to go on in order for you to survive. You couldn't run around teaching your kids about being, independent and fighting back and this and that, if they were in situations where they could get killed or even just having making eye contact. I
exactly.
remember my father telling me about things like that, that you could be walking down the street when he was a young man and a white guy might be coming toward you and you were not expected to make eye contact with him. As a matter of fact, he said one time a guy told him, when you see a white man coming down the sidewalk, you step off the sidewalk until he passes. And my father said he told him, okay, I'll remember that. And he never did step off the sidewalk. He kept walking. But there's so many things they encounter we can't even imagine. Well, now we can imagine it. During the pandemic, a whole lot of racists came out of the closet. Um, but they had to encounter so much stuff even after slavery. I mean, slavery was a horrible situation. After slavery, there was so much stuff. So we have to realize part of why they did not disclose a lot of things. But fortunately, we're at a time when it's important for me to tell you about some hardships I've had so that you can realize that, oh, she went through that. It took her that long to do it, and this and that happened, and she didn't have this and that. We didn't have a car for a while, and things like that. You have to tell your children about that so they realize that it's not all peaches and cream, that there's work and sacrifice, but
Walk
that
of
if you
life.
stick to it, you can survive and you can succeed. So that's
You
why
will
I'm
survive
now
and you
interested in
will
that.
succeed.
Yeah. So I am now offering classes to people, and all you have to do is go to my website, florabrown.com. I keep it simple as possible for people to find me. And over there, you will be able to see the information about my classes and whatever else I'm doing regarding life stories. And recently, Victor, I started making some Instagram reels and TikToks about it as well to get more engagement and make people more aware of it, what I'm
You're gonna
doing.
have to start. I'm gonna start having to actively spread that because I think that'll definitely help a lot of people, especially in the communities that I'm used to and stuff like that.
Right,
Because, like
right.
I said, there's not a lot of people that people have to look up to. You know.
Yeah, and and everybody has something they can share with you. They don't have to be famous.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think those are the last people we want to learn from
that's
because
true.
their life is not exactly
That
what
life is not easy, and it's not necessarily something you want to follow
it's not.
necessarily.
It's not realistic to be in the limelight or for everyone to be in the limelight. And then, like you said, like it's probably not. I think like if I think I would rather be wealthy than
Then
famous
famous.
because
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
fame, once you're famous, it's kind of hard to get unfamous.
You
You
can't.
get
Yeah.
tired of
You. No, I think somebody interviewed Barack Obama, and they asked him what's the worst thing about having become president, and he said even before president, he was famous, became famous, and he said the worst part is losing your anonymity. He said, I would love to be able to just walk down to the corner and get an ice cream cone at the store.
it.
You can't do that anymore.
It's like your life's almost not your own
You
anymore.
you just don't have that freedom anymore to walk, around. You've got to have guard. You got to be on guard all the
Hmm.
time. And of course, in this case, as a former president, he actually has guards. So people think they want to be famous, but they don't realize uh, how in a way, how stifling and in prison you are when
Yeah,
you are so-called famous.
yeah. A
All
lot of you
right.
hear them talk about it
I will talk to you later. Thank you for inviting me and invite me back again. I have lots more I could talk about.
for sure.
All
Love you.
righty. Love you too. Bye bye.